Year on year, this football club finds new ways to just hurt our soul. Break
us, Sam. Break us.
I was going to say I have nothing to say, but that would defeat the purpose of a podcast. We'll get the pleasantries out the way. Hello, Nathan. How are you this evening?
Oh, it's been an interesting day. I don't know how my emotions are. I'm torn.
You're torn.
I'm Natalie Imbruglia.
Good one. I'm so flustered I forgot to hit record, so just forgive me for the sound you're about to hear.
Recording in progress.
There
we go. It's not always perfect. Been sitting here for half an hour, still forgot to do that. Right, so this pod is not really about Sunday. We'll talk about it. We'll have a chat and a yarn, but given the events of today, we need to talk.
And I think that we'd love to hear what everyone feels too, because we're going to give you what we feel, but I'd love to see, are we around the mark, or are we feeling what others are feeling?
Well, we have already had a good conversation about it today, and it's just so... I can remember 3 times in my life watching football where I've just refreshed Twitter incessantly. Yep. Right, drug saga, with the Cass hearing, Dylan Shield coming to the club at the death of the transfer window. It's not soccer, the trade period.
Yep. That was right at the end too.
And today.
Yep.
Now, get in the comments if you're here on the Facebook Live. I will refresh it at some point if there's no comments. I won't do what I did last week and let the team down. We will have a discussion.
He knows how to use Facebook now. He's read the manual.
I got the For Dummies book. So, I mean, if you don't know, you're living under a rock, I guess. But the events of today were board meeting this morning. President Brasher, sounds a bit weird, has stepped down, forced down, whatever you want.
Somewhere over the weekend he stood down.
And then we now have Dave Barham, who's a former network exec for Channel 10, as president. And there were rumours throughout the day that Truck was gone, that he'd been sacked.
Well, there weren't rumours. Channel 7 and
they reported it. They reported it.
Went with it.
Thankfully, as Essendon supporters, we have a bit of prior experience dealing with this sort of stuff. So me and you in particular sat here and went, I'll wait
until we get the email, is our theory. Not until we get our email from our club.
Unless we hear it from the club or Cal Toomey. If Cal Toomey reported it, I'd be all over it.
Cal, but he knows stuff.
He does. He's an Essendon man, I believe. And then, I don't know, later on this afternoon, when I woke up from my deep, deep sleep being sick, it was reported that he wasn't sacked. He was still the coach. Xavier Campbell interviewed walking back into Tulla saying he's still the coach, and no, I haven't spoken to Alistair Clarkson, which I guess is the hottest of the topics. First and foremost, we were fucking disgusting yesterday. That was the highest score we've conceded since 2017, which is actually surprising that it was 2017 when we were a half-decent football side.
Yep.
I turned it off during the third quarter.
I turned off in the second
time, which is rare for you. Normally, absolutely suck up.
I just saw 23 players or 22 that didn't care. They just a bunch of guys out there who just didn't want to be there. If they don't want to play, I don't want to watch.
It was... I said I wasn't going to talk about the game too much, but...
No, we can mention it.
Combination of a couple of things, and this ties into the whole Truck scenario as well. The moment with Hind against North Melbourne, where we had the game won, I'm pretty sure. Hind went to the bench, sat next to Truck, and did not even look at him.
He'd given away a 50 at the time.
Yeah, given away 50, come off the bench, almost smirking like a child.
Yeah.
And Truck didn't do anything. Truck didn't react. Truck didn't say, oh, God, there's lots of comments already. I've refreshed it, though. They weren't loading, so high five.
Good work.
It was nothing. And I sat there at the time and went, huh.
Because I agree.
Because we were winning, I kind of went, oh, well.
Oh, well.
But now, little Harry hindsight, do you have the players Ben, do you really have the players? And all sorry, I'm talking a lot. I'll let you talk in a minute.
No, that's right. Keep going.
We've heard a lot throughout the year and maybe over the last 2 years that the players either don't want to play the style they're being coached to play. So then I think it happened last year, definitely happened this year. We went back to a bit more of a simplistic approach and then all of a sudden started playing good football for a period. Either way, if that's the case, you can't be a coach of a football club. If you can't sit your players down and go, oi, cockhead, pull your head in.
It's concerning that you feel as though they're getting to dictate the way the game is being played because they can't grasp or understand the style of football that the coaching panel want them to play. Now, there could be also the fact that maybe the coaching style of football that the coach want to play isn't the right, and they maybe see that. But you would think that the coaches would, have a bit more knowledge.
You would hope. And I mean, there's a few funny things that come with this sort of stuff because that's what we do. You've got a bloke who's a fullback, all-Australian fullback coaching you, and our backline sucks. That's questionable.
Well, our defence sucks. We are third worst.
Well, defensively, but yes, our backline.
As a team, it doesn't matter about the back six. That we are, as a team, we are the third worst defensive team in the AFL at the moment, only ahead of North Melbourne and West Coast, who seriously have been atrocious. We are right there with them at the moment for points against. We have just been flogged.
And I'll die on the hill that attack will win you games, defence will win you premierships. If you looked at it, Geelong would have probably the least amount of points against, and they're on top of the ladder.
Well, they're third, and second is Melbourne, first is Freo, fourth is Sydney. So they're all the teams that are, right at the pointy end of it and going to compete for the flag at the end of this year.
I don't know if we talked about it on the pod or not. I could have copped at some point this year if we had played some really ugly football, but just conceded less.
Yeah, had a 40 to 50 point game.
Yeah, if we lost, it was the Port Adelaide game was like that a little bit, but it was wet. The first one, it
was
wet, so a bit.
Yep, but no, we're getting we're not just losing; we're losing in a way that every player on our team looks ordinary. I struggled through yesterday's game with some of those players' efforts and some of the players. I know a lot of them are really liked by our supporters, but I watched that and went, some of these players are not up to scratch. Like, if they can't handle the pressure of this game of, 13th versus bloody 15th or whatever the heck we are, then they're in trouble.
This is what me and you grumble about quite a lot, is that not so much on the podcast, to be fair, we don't get it, but you see it on Twitter. As soon as you criticize a player, it's taken to be a criticism of the human, right? So 2 players in particular I'll mention now: Sam Durham, and Matt Guelphy. Yeah, we're a little bit inconsistent with our assessments of them because I like Durham because he fucking tries, and he's trainable and he'll get better. But that's shit. You can't get into an AFL side on trying your hardest. But then we'll sit here and criticise Guelphy, who's a few years older, albeit, but he tries. You expect a bit more from him, but it's not a criticism of the dude. Like, if you bump into
they're great people.
You'd say good day and you'd go, hey, you're cool, you play football.
Well, I guess for me too, it's these people the same people that call for a ruthless coach, that call for, truck's too nice and all that. I don't know if they can also be ruthless with the players that we pick or the players on our list, because we need to be more ruthless about some of these. And we did it a few years ago where we culled a few and it was really good. We got a couple of, we had a few list cloggers, and Clark was one that sort of springs to mind.
The Catalyst one,
Yeah. There was a couple of list cloggers, and we moved them on, and that was good. But now, we're at a situation. I think the part of the problem is someone like those, like Guelphy too. He's 25. Played maybe 80 games. We were really short of those sort of players. That's one of the bigger issues.
Yeah, it'd be interesting this year with the list clogger situation. Around Ham is the main one. There's a couple of guys. McBride, is not really doing an awful lot to progress. If Truck does go, how does that look? Are we going to start shopping around some players? Are we going to see some attitude adjustments, or them cracking the shits because all of a sudden they have some high expectations and they don't want to
So I guess there's the question is, do you think Truck goes? What are some of the comments that are you reading some of the comments now?
I am just trying to get it on my phone and on the computer just in case it stuffs up. Apologies.
Yep. No, that's right. How about we see what people's thoughts are around today's events? Because I'm interested to see, do people think we should sack Truck? Like, is that the problem? Or are we at the Richmond / the Goodwin stage of our development?
Yeah.
And this is the thing you'll never know, where they got, and I think the other one was Bomber Thompson too. They all got to that point where they had internal or external reviews.
Bucks didn't win a flag, but Buckley could have been sacked and made a grand final. Yeah.
Yeah. So they all went through this point where they, and we're only 2 years into this guy. We'll call it 2.5.
I'll read the comments.
Yep.
One thing on that, as I talked about with you, is I'm happy either way almost here. If Clarkson's available and we can go out and get a dude we think he's going to be a great coach for the football club, that is the ruthless kind of decision-making I want to see.
Yep, I agree.
On the other side of that coin is, do I think Truck deserves to have his third year of his contract? Yeah, probably. But Alistair Clarkson's not going to be available next year.
Nope.
We know who's available now. And if there is someone we think can lead this football club, so we're not in the headlines, that more turmoil for the Essendon Football Club.
I think the only issue about the Clarkson thing is that I could see is that I would assume we're a long way behind, because I would have thought GWS and North Melbourne, who sacked their coaches weeks ago.
But this is the little
should be a long way in front. But they should have gone through interviews. They should have been talking about money. They should be, whereas Essendon can't just ring up and say, "Hello, is Alistair there?"
Okay. I think
that'd be my view.
Well, for us that we're Essendon. And although we have a bit of a shit history at the moment, we do have a bloody good history beyond that.
Yeah.
So big club, lots of money, good players, we think. Big supporter base.
Anyway, comments?
Yes, sorry. I'll just fly through a couple. Yep. Bye, Brett.
Bye,
That's
Brett.
pretty funny because his name's Ben, but I get your point.
Oh, right.
Shambles, ashamed to be a diehard supporter.
They're tough days. I hate making the media. I hate being...
Yeah, we thought it was behind us too, didn't we?
Yep.
Press conference to be held tomorrow. That's interesting. I didn't know that. Phil, what a debacle of a day for our proud club. Can we even call it a proud club at this point in time? Are we proud club? No.
We were.
That wasn't word good either. But anyway. Brasher has done what's best in stepping aside. However, with all the noise about Truck, I think he has to go now. And now to keep him, I think he's lost the supporter base and it's going to be hard to get back on track. IMO. We need to talk about another bloke who I think has done phenomenally well to escape some of the spotlight.
Yep.
And that is our CEO, in Xavier Campbell, who
had to take responsibility for the situation we're in.
Got Worsfold on board.
Yep.
Would I be right in saying that?
Yep.
Did the whole succession plan, and now we're in this scenario.
Well, yeah, I agree, because basically we didn't appoint Truck. He sort of came on an assistant role, saying that we would give him the senior role, was my understanding of his terms of employment, because I don't know if he ever, was there ever an interview process where we sat down and looked at a bunch of assistant coaches and said, well, Truck, you're going to be the one that's coaching next year or the year after that? Or was Truck brought to the club in 17 or 18, whenever he got there, and sort of said, well, you're going to be the one we're grooming to take over from Worsfold?
Yeah, and this, we actually saw this.
And is that the right way to do it? Because not many other clubs do it that way.
And Harry Hindsight, again, absolutely. Yep. Collingwood looked for a coach, got the best coach available, and regardless of how close they're winning games against average sides, they're now fifth.
They're winning.
Somehow. They dropped, but they're winning games of footy. And all of a sudden you go, yeah, actually, they got an all right list, really. Whereas we have, and it's been the way for a couple of years, where we just seem to be getting all these coaches from one club, Richmond, and a bit of backslapping, going, yeah, Truck, yeah, you'll be the next one, don't worry about it. Where maybe we've turned a blind eye to
the best out there
process.
I think that's a concern for me. I mean,
it is hindsight.
Yeah,
totally hindsight. I was happy with Truck.
Thing.
Very happy with Truck last year. He says all the right things. It's just we haven't seen that translate into,
and the concern now is
furthest thing from that.
The result from the weekend and the GWS game shows signs of a group that's lost that connection.
Yeah.
to a coach.
We had that last year where we sat here and said they look like they're mates. They look like they love playing footy together again. And we hadn't had that. And now we don't have that again.
It's happened so quickly.
Sorry, get back to the comments. Matt says, got to give Rutten another year. So there's one in the pro Brett camp.
I am very split on this. Very split.
Same. I am 100%. Joe, today's been a crazy day. Grandmother had to be rushed to hospital. I hope she's okay. I should have read the comment a bit more before I read it out. I almost had to be as well when the news came out about Truck. Yeah, it was a bit of a shock this morning, wasn't it? Nick, Brasher should leave the club or leave completely, not just switch chairs on the board. I have no issue with him stepping down. I think the direction old mate Dave wants to go in seems to be more in line with the external review, which was a bit more popular among the rest of the board, which is possibly not Brasher. Conjecture, no idea.
It's interesting. I wonder why Brasher was afraid of the external review or didn't want it that.
Because, well, and again, this is all hearsay. I don't claim to know anything because I don't know a single person at that football club at all. Brasher is Truck's biggest fan kind of scenario. And again, just from Twitter, feels were that if Truck was going to go, Brasher had to go. Otherwise, Truck was never going to go. So if that's the path they're going down, Brasher had to
then that means Truck's gone. If Brasher's gone, then Truck's gone.
Well, yeah, you would think so, but here we are.
It's only time. But anyway, keep going. Any other comments?
Nathan, one of your mates.
Hey, Nathan.
Still say round one performance against Geelong was far worse. I was playing in a cricket grand final that we won. Just a reminder.
It was horrible game to watch. I recall that. It was just no effort.
At least we had Rusty Martin. Like we had something in that game to go.
5 goals and 25 possessions. I mean, wow.
The Sydney game still for me earlier in the year was the moment I lost all hope and joy in the world. But
there's a few for me. I've been frustrated through most of the games. And this is the hindsight thing, is that like that period of like the 4 weeks or 6-7 weeks before the GWS game where we won like 5 out of 7 or what it was. I think we dropped West Coast and Collingwood by a point. We were playing good footy, and you're sort of looking at going, well, maybe the first year we just didn't have things right. Now we're getting things right. But all of a sudden, if we get flogged by Richmond next week, then the last 3 weeks have been atrocious. And really, you've got this little 7-week window where we played good footy
And I'd argue that the best
North
football,
Melbourne, probably the worst teams we played too. We beat Sydney in that. I get that, but
the Sydney game was good. The best game of football we played was against Collingwood after quarter time. That was the best football we played all year. We lost. But that was the best footy we saw all year.
But what happened between that game and then we beat North Melbourne pretty easily in a pretty cruisy game? Then what happened? Like this is why I'm confused how the look of these players have lost, or the coaches lost the players sort of thing. Because the Collingwood game, you would have thought, geez, we're right there. One kick goes. If Harry Jones kicks out, we're right there. We've just beaten 3 top 4 teams. Yeah. And a team that's 10 straight, like the most informed team. That's saying, geez, there's a lot going right at the club. The next week you go beat the bottom team, which you should. And then the week after that against GWS, all the effort and everything is gone. And you're like, well, what's happened?
It was genuinely like we went. Truck or the coaching group, whatever, sat there and gone, let's try that again. You know that thing we tried earlier in the year that got us.
It was back to the defensive thing, yeah.
Now let's try that again. And we were a little bit fortunate in that GWS didn't beat us by as much as they probably could have.
They played much better than they scored.
Culminated this week to an insanely accurate.
Spot on.
But Port Adelaide, who, I mean, no disrespect to Port, they're an okay side. They shouldn't be beating us by 84 points under the closed roof at Marvel. Ever.
Not when they're only probably, well, there are a few games in front of us.
4 or 5 ladder positions on. Not playing finals, not top 4, not.
I think they'd lost 4 in a row before this game too. So they weren't in form.
Jesus. I was just looking at the comments again. This is an interesting one, Matt Tabone.
Go, Matty.
Does Dodoro need to go?
His name always gets thrown up, and I don't understand.
Do you feel like one list manager for 20 plus years, or maybe even more than that? It's a long time, I know.
Yep.
Is good for a football club?
I don't know, but do we think he's doing a bad job? It doesn't matter how long he's been there. Like, you're not good or bad at your job by how long you've been doing it. You're good or bad at the job by the results that you do, that, you bring. This is the thing with Truck, is that his results are not looking good at the moment.
So, on that point, does Dodoro need to go?
Well, if you go through, Hobbs has been a great pick last year or this year. The year before that, Perkins, Cox, and Reed. Don't know, but Perkins.
In terms of results on the football field, we haven't won a final for 20 years.
But that's years. Not his fault.
He builds.
He's not coaching.
He builds the fucking list.
He brings the players in that he can bring in that the coach wants. Surely the coach says to him, "Can you get me these players?" He goes, "Yep, I can get you them." I still think the bigger issue at Essendon is not the players that we pick; it's the development of those players. Like, you could argue Stringer, Smith, who we should probably talk about, who's retired during the week.
We should.
They played some of their better football and Shield when they got to the club in their first year than they did for the years afterwards. Like, I reckon my concern is that I see players like Nick Martin will be a fascinating one. If he goes backwards over the next few years, then I will say that we've made him worse. And I'm concerned that I reckon we make players worse.
Well, we will talk about Dev Smith, actually. That's a good point.
Yep.
Twofold. When he played, that first year he played, I was biggest.
Yep. We all loved him.
Of his
leading tackler in the AFL, 180.
Broken AFL record at the time for the most amount of tackles. I had a really questionable old girl on the table with me at the best and fairest who poo-pooed my idea that he was going to win the damn thing. She was obsessed with Mark Bagley, so I mean,
oh, gross.
There's all you need to know. If you're listening, I'm sorry, you won't remember.
But if you
he won it, he went big fat and won it, and it was like, wow, this guy's unreal. And he said in his speech, his body's just let him down, and that's been pretty evident.
Yep,
as you can see that.
But I even love that where he got the call for the Hawthorn game, and remember this game we had all those players sick.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, I haven't ran for a week or like 3 weeks. He said, I haven't actually physically run. Can't run at the moment. And the coach said, well, we need him to play. And he came out and played. And we won that game.
Yes.
So that doesn't sound like a club where he could have just said, no, and I want to. If he's not, invested in the coach, I don't know. I just continue to find... I don't know. Is it just one or two players at the club that are stirring a pot? Is it the Heppel thing going on with, the Gold Coast? Is it, the Parish thing we read about? Is it?
So there's a bit of news on Parish. First of all, Dev, we got to just say, thanks. That was a phenomenal player, just let down by his body. That happens. I can't listen to the Rish and Rash podcast.
No, I don't listen to it.
I don't know why I can't. I just can't. What did you tell me this morning? The
talk around the club was that he walks around with a bit of an ego, and this is Parish, and sort of doesn't have a lot to do with any of the new players, or thinks he's probably thinks a fair bit about himself, and the club even gave him an article that said shouldn't be getting a game unless you tackle as a midfielder, and sort of hinted at him say you need to do a bit more of this. So I don't know how true any of that is, but
it sort of speaks to what we hear a lot of, that the players seem to run the show a bit more than what they possibly should.
Yep.
And that feeds into then why, and we haven't really talked about Clarkson in depth yet, why he would be someone I'd go, yeah.
But if that's true, then Truck is no good as a coach anyway, because if he lets players walk over him like that.
And that's the way I see it at the moment.
It doesn't matter who your coach is. Well, it doesn't matter. Then you shouldn't be letting players
walk
And that goes back to the Hine thing that you pointed out, was that then if that is true and that response Hine gave Truck, I would have tapped him on the shoulder right there and then and ripped him a bit of a new freaking arsehole right there and then, mate, you don't look away from me when I go to talk to you.
Yeah, just make
you look at me and you concentrate. I would have pointed the finger and said, I don't give a fuck what camera's on me.
You made me look at you then.
You're getting this.
You weren't even talking to me. You made me look at you. Maybe you should coach.
I wouldn't have. So how your kids sometimes, your children aren't quite young enough, but when they do something real cheeky and they know they're being cheeky.
Yeah. Yeah, mine's a bit young for that.
Yeah, I give him the point and the finger straight away and said, no, don't even think about it.
I wonder where they get that from. Justin Hewish has a good question that we should talk about. What happens if Clarkson coaches and then the same shit happens next year? So same thing happens next year. Just put words in the man's mouth.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I think the difference between Clarkson is that the media will give him space.
Yes.
They won't. He could not win a game next year and they wouldn't criticise him. That's the difference, is that...
And that is why he'd be such a good fit with North Melbourne. Like, if I'm North, that would be great.
Yeah.
Because
the media's going, no, he's got a master plan, it'll be all fine.
Exactly. They just trust that he's actually got shit going on. I agree. That's my theory too.
And I think this is the reason why I want to stay with Truck, because I want to see the course. I will be barracking very hard for success for him, for his personal, belief. But anyway. Yep. Something funny?
Yeah. And I think only you'll appreciate it. I'm not going to tell you who wrote the comment. If they sack Rutten, it's purely out of spite against Richmond. Sack coach's curse. $3.50 in a 2-horse race.
I did, just on that, I did put a little bet on today in case it does happen.
If we ever wanted to win a game of football, sack a fucking coach. Yep.
And Richmond have a bad history of hitting sack coaches.
Yeah, don't they? North.
So,
we'd be the exception to the rule. We'd be the only one ever to lose off sacking a coach.
Could be that team. Look, I personally don't think we can get Clarkson, because I am sure North Melbourne and GWS have already spoken to him. They've been running with the assistant coach for weeks and weeks and weeks. They've gone up to him and said, "Hey, do you want to have a catch up? We'll have a coffee and a chat."
Though, if we're not at least trying to talk to the man, I'd be disappointed.
But we wouldn't have talked to him like 5
weeks
ago.
Not before, no. But now, if we're not still doing due diligence,
my point is, are we too late?
Like, probably, maybe, and that's why Clarkson stays. And then I was watching a discussion on one of the football shows with Gary Lyon and Nick Rewalt saying, if we miss out on Clarkson and Truck, then I guess by default stays in that seat. Should he? No. I'd be going, sorry, boys, you can find yourself another fucking coach.
Oh, do you think that Truck should?
But yeah, if he's sitting there going, you've tried to get Clarkson, now you can't get Clarkson, you're going to keep me.
Yeah, but he might think the other way, right? I'm going to prove you wrong.
Maybe.
I'm going
to. In that business,
if we win 11 games next year, or 12 games next year?
Overall or in a row?
No, overall.
The thing is, it needs to be season on season. It needs to be season on season.
Yeah, but next year, but next year's the last year of his contract. He can't do any. Yeah.
So,
what does he need to do next year to be successful?
Good football.
Yeah, what is?
Yeah, I know. I don't like.
It has to be result based. You can't sit down at the end and say, "Oh, you played good football. We'll give you a contract." There has to be some sort of stipulants. Like we need to win certain amount of games.
I personally got more out of the Collingwood game than I did out of the North Melbourne game. We won the North game. We lost the Collingwood game. And look, I don't want it to be just pure wins and losses.
But that's a good point. But you're still going to win. If you're playing good footy, you're still going to win.
We need improvement. Just improvement. If we win more than 8 games.
The improvement could be beating top 8 teams.
Well, we've almost exclusively beaten top 8 teams. Hawthorn, Adelaide, I reckon the rest off the cuff would be top. North would be top teams. Brisbane.
Well, teams are above us.
Brisbane at the Gabba.
Yep.
Half of Brisbane. We'll be beaten Briz at the Gabba or at the Gab. And
the Sydney at Sydney, wasn't it? Or Sydney?
No, Sydney was in Melbourne.
All right, yep. St Kilda, and they were pretty good at the time.
Top 8 at the time. Garbage football club. And I'd argue that Collingwood game, I would take a lot from that, even though we lost it still.
Yeah, 100%. Well, great, we win that.
Got a comment here I want to get to really quickly.
Yep.
Because it's very good. Marcus Elliott. Nathan has a great hairstyle. Don't ever wear a hat again.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Marcus.
Ever.
Oh. Ever? Just one Evers? Was there one ever? Or did you?
I added the rest.
Right. Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Marcus. I do have a lovely head of hair, Marcus. My mother was a hairdresser.
I'm insanely jealous of Nathan's beard. I'd take it grey and all.
I just find that a little too creepy. Creepy.
Mine's shit.
Weird. Can we go back to the football now?
No, we can compliment you. It'd be nice to your bros. It's fine.
I'd like to point out too, Mark, I haven't brushed it today. This is just the natural how it falls.
He just wakes up like that. Yeah.
Naturally good-looking rooster.
See, now you're gone arrogant. I don't want to be nice to you anymore.
By the way, I will be. I'm the sort of person, no matter what this Clarkson thing does or done, I won't be angry at it. That's the thing I won't be. I'm not going to be upset if we miss out on Clarkson or get Clarkson. It's just going to be what happens, because I still think that the Clarkson thing would be very hard, because when we were playing good footy in the last 7 weeks, besides the GWS game and this game, we wouldn't have been talking to Clarkson. The board would have quietened down. They thought, oh, yeah, we've had another good win. We're going all right. Everything's all right. I'm sure there was still mumblings, the first half of the year was pretty shit and all that sort of stuff. But they would have, I just don't think they would have rang up Clarkson and said, hey, we're looking at, new coaches. What's your options there? I reckon they would have been looking at alternative, like assistant coaches, like questioning, like Gene Siracusa and Blake Carosella. Are they good enough to, are they helping Truck? Should we be looking at, even GWS, like is, so what's his name? Spike. If he's running a senior role now and he's getting 10 weeks of like that role in, should we have him over at the club as an assistant? Or, what other assistant clubs at coaches like Melbourne who are going well, or Collingwood who are going well, or Carlton who are going well? Like, what other assistant coaches could we get to improve our system? If we're going to stick with Truck, which I still think we probably will and we should, then how do we improve our systems? Do we need a better senior mentor? Is that, what's his name? Well, Josh Mahoney, something like that. Is he the right guy? Anyway, that's my view.
It's a great view. I was just trying to formulate a response with my tiny little brain. I've been an advocate for someone like a Nathan Buckley, not as a senior coach.
Great example.
Just in the club.
But even why not as an assistant coach or some sort of mentoring role?
Not a senior coach. Yeah. Not a senior coach. I'm not suggesting that. I'm just saying that it's a bit like Hurd, and we'll get to Hurdy in a minute. But if I'm a midfielder, and I got a bit of a strut going, and Nathan Buckley comes up to me and says, "Oi, cockhead, pull your head in."
Well, Buckley was called Fig Jam, so I don't know if he's the right guy.
The way he talks about the game when he's on Fox Footy is...
Yeah, he's elite.
He's amazing, and I'd have him at the club in a fucking heartbeat. I
agree. So there's guys, that's a great example. Buckley, like even Ross Lyon, do you talk to him about some sort of senior role?
We might get some more defensive capabilities with Ross.
Oh, well, that's
again, not as a senior coach. Not advocating for that, just at the club.
But, there has to be... the first thing we have to look at is, if we go forward with the existing people, is our defense, our team defense, and how totally disgusting it is at the moment. Totally disgusting. Not the back six, the back, or the whole 22 is disgusting. And that's coaches and players. Whatever they're trying to do does not work.
Not working. Except for BZT. He gets a free pass.
Except for BZT. Another great one on the weekend. So I'll just quickly mention how good he was, I thought, on the weekend.
I love the fact he's just come from nothing. It will never...
He's one actually where we developed him.
Did we? Or did we just fluke it? We played him at the right time.
We played him in the VFL and got his confidence up. And then, hey, look at that.
He went, oh, hang on a minute. I know how to do this.
On that, our VFL had a good win.
Oh, let's talk about the VFL for a minute. Jump on Twitter and just find the Jai Menzies goal. Great commentary. Great
You think he has to play this week now?
Yes. Kick 2. It was a pretty easy shot, a goal. Like, it was 30 out straight in front on a snap, but it was 32 minutes into the last quarter when we were down by a point. Like,
and we can't kick him from straight in front.
That says there's a little bit of class there.
Yeah. Who are your ins and outs? I know you didn't watch the whole game, but who would you like to see? I'd like to see someone like Jai Menzies.
Out all of them in the entire VFL side. Can't do any worse.
I love it. I'll tell you what I thought we got wrong on the weekend was dropping, and I didn't have a problem with it at the time, but I think the hindsight, it looked horrible. Dropping Harry Jones, and I know Stewart was injured, that left us with no tall except for Peter Wright, who was just, didn't have any support in the air. And we do like to bomb it in.
Yeah. And I'm the same. I didn't pick up on it at the time. I went, oh yeah, Harry's been pretty meh for a while. That's fine. And then Stewart was injured. So I was like, oh, yeah. But then, watching poor Pete get absolutely flogged by Aliir, we should have seen that coming. Aliir is a very good player.
Yep.
And We didn't change anything either. That's the thing that shits me more than anything else. We didn't try to do anything different. We didn't say, righto, Pete, not your day. You be a bit of a decoy. Get Aliir out of the zone, and we're going to kick it over there.
Yeah.
And let Sammy Draper or Nick Bryan play as the forward, and just you get rid of Aliir. Nothing.
Yeah, no, I agree. We seem to be really scared to make decisions in game about swapping players. Like
this was the biggest.
It seems to be the biggest. Like, yeah, we'll play Ambrosio down forward for the whole game, but we won't sort of say, okay, it's not working. Let's send BZT forward and send the Ambrosio down back and just roll that back three around differently and hope to God that works.
Yeah, and the whole who you just mentioned, D'Ambrosio, that probably came from the VFL.
Yeah, he played a game in the VFL up forward, or 2 games somewhere.
AFL. Interestingly, on the VFL too, and we'll get back to the changes in a minute. Zach Reid played a bit of forward.
And see, him and Cox are interesting. There's still a lot of talk that Cox could end up as a defender and Reid could end up as the forward. So, not like Essendon to play people out of their position.
It worked at that point in time, didn't it? In terms of changes, I want to see Menzies give a full game. I want to see Patrick Voss get a full game in the AFL. That's probably, if Hurls is going to retire, I'm all for him coming in and playing full forward.
100%.
Who goes out?
Just whoever. I'd kick anyone. Hey,
Shield was good. I like.
Shield was very good. Yeah, he's had 10 tackles too.
A lot of tackles. Yeah. That's where it stops. Genuinely.
Yeah, that was about it. I thought BZT was pretty good.
BZT was fine. Yeah.
Yep. The rest of I thought Ridley was, from what I saw too, was all right too. But not. If I had to find three, they're probably the three.
Yeah. I can't be bothered working out who comes out. I just want to see those three players get a game next week, finish off the season, and let us sit there and go, hey, that Paddy Voss, he's all right. Oh, hey, that Jai Menzies got a bit about him.
I'd be sending some messages. Anyone that, if the coaches thought anyone was, personally, I think guys like Heppel were really ordering again. I don't know what he's adding to the team at the moment. Like, he's playing on the wing and he's just shit house. I pray to God he takes the 4-year deal to go to the Gold Coast and we don't have to look like the arseholes by not playing him sometime next year, because I'm sure we're going to end up in the position where he's playing VFL next year.
Again, ruthless.
Ruthless, he shouldn't be playing.
Say he shouldn't be playing. Get in his ear and say, hey, Dyson, look, take it. It's the best thing for you. It's the best thing for the footy club.
Yep.
And that was probably what, I mean, again, we're not in the club. We have no idea. Probably what a good leader would be sort of saying to him, look, we think this is a really good opportunity for you. If you want to get into coaching, particularly, we can't offer you that.
You've got to get outside the club. And he would offer them a lot of leadership up there. He'd be able to surf a lot more. He'd be happy with that.
Surfable, yeah.
They got already pretty much the, what's the shuckers and totally dude. Just picturing you. Sounds like
good on you, guys.
Shaggy from the
that's what I call him.
From the Scooby Doo. That sort of crikey guys.
All right, I'm not getting into
it's fine.
Imitations. Can be your game. We need to talk about Hurdy.
I would love him to come back, but I know that's not going to be a popular.
Well,
that might be the romantic in me too.
If you're in romantic, a couple of things on Jimmy Boy. I think he was a bloody good coach.
I agree.
Who was probably took the fall for some other people's shit. No, he wasn't blameless, but.
No, 100%.
He employed people to do a job and they didn't do it properly.
Yep.
Which
and we were an exciting team under him.
Yep. The other thing, probably the most attractive part of this is it would be a big up yours.
It would.
It would be in the news. We'd have the headlines. We'd have all that. Yep. But
can you get another 20,000 members?
Literally be walking to the football doing that.
Yep. I remember that. I remember whatever that was when he got off, like the AFL released that he wasn't guilty or something like that, even though they'd sacked him from coaching or whatever. There was one thing, or was some appeal where he did get off. I remember just walking around like that for the day.
Yeah.
It was the Mr. Bean
Mr. Bean thing in the back of the car.
Going, waving to everyone. Mr. Bean.
There's the wrestling one too, where he walks in all cocky.
It's been a pretty shitty day.
It has been a very shitty day, particularly when you had food poisoning or something. That was even better.
You're right, buddy.
Yeah, we'll be right. I made it through tonight. I made it through this. That's a minor miracle. Just thinking if there's any comments on Hurdy. Could tell Hurd connected with the players and they respected him. I think that's the biggest thing. It's the whole Buckley thing.
Yeah.
Bucks talks. If Hurdy talks, listen.
Yeah. I mean, at the time, I remember a lot of players were just so excited to be playing. Like, Hurd was their role model as kids, like the guys who were coming to the club.
Do you have any issues around him coaching his boys? Do you think there's any sort of conflict there?
Because he's at the moment, his boys I don't think will crack into the AFL team.
No, neither. But does it? No. The whole Jake Long situation is under the list because his name's Long.
Well, I'm sure there have been other ones. I can't think of. At North Melbourne, there wasn't one of their coaches. I reckon there's been other kids playing with their dads.
Carlton Voss turned down his own child.
Yep. But no one else picked him, so that might be
that's fine. Yeah,
and he might not actually be just good enough.
You'd have to.
That's a great question. Anyone out there for the trivia, for Sam's trivia, name a father-son coaching.
A dad that coached his son. It would have had to have been at some point.
I reckon it's happened recently, and I can't think of it. Was it someone at Carlton or?
Worst thing is I have to keep refreshing the comments, otherwise it doesn't work. Sort your shit out, Facebook.
Where's the guy that does the trivia? What's his name that always jumped in? The Willie Dick.
Oh, Willie Dick. Yeah, old mate.
Old mate.
On the spot.
Terribly sorry.
We need the bloke off Twitter, Sir Swamp Thing. He knows everything, that bloke. Seen him?
No.
Oh, you have. You're living under a rock.
Oh, well.
We'll get on that one for next week because Murray is the bloke you're thinking of.
Murray.
And I don't think he is overly trivia persuaded. He just likes the Who Am I?
All right.
We have comments. Dennis and Ryan Pagan.
Oh, yeah. Yep. From North Melbourne when Dennis Pagan was there. Or was he at Carlton? Was it Carlton or North?
Again, you're asking me questions I do not know.
Yep, sorry. And Dennis Pagan coached North Melbourne to what? 3 flags? Maybe more, not sure.
Your vintage. Not mine.
That's Wayne Curie era, sorry. Oh, yeah, you're that.
Yep. Right. Apparently Ken Fletcher coached Dustin in high school footy.
That's true. He did, yep.
All right. Do you have anything else to add?
Not really. It's just, I guess...
2 flags for Pagan.
Oh, 2 flags. Look, I don't like being bullied by the media into sacking coaches. And at the moment, why would we sack Rutten at the moment?
Because we're 2 years coach available.
Yep. That's it.
Yes.
Okay, so that better coach. So if Clarkson wasn't available, then we wouldn't be having this conversation. Is that true?
Hard to say because he is available.
No,
and that's probably the driving force for a lot of it. But I still think we'd be sitting here talking about whether or not Truck's the right man.
Well, we'd be saying, he's third. There's a lot of pressure on his 3rd year, which is his last year of his contract. Yeah.
That's probably what we'd be going
with. Which is what I would expect because, he's had 2 years. I would expect that, his 3rd year's a big year, especially if you're coming off, how many wins we had this year? 7, is it?
Yep.
6. Yeah, 6, 7.
7.
7. So you've gone from 11, 6 in the short year, 11, and then down to 7. Then the 4th year is a lot of pressure on what happens that year. Which I don't like the idea of sacking him because Clarkson's out there.
Comes back to that whole ruthless discussion. What would you rather? Would you rather a ruthless football club 5 years' time?
But you can't tell me, this is the thing about the ruthlessness, is that there's ruthless and there's ruthless. You can't tell me but by sacking Rutten that Clarkson gets us premierships. We can't. We can't. Yeah, we can't say Rutten could get us premierships or Clarkson. We can't. We don't know.
We don't know, and we never will. No, we'll only be able to judge it on hindsight.
Yeah, and the whole theory is that but Clarkson's done it before. Coaches have left clubs and gone to coach before and had no success. So,
but we have our own theory that recycled coaches don't work.
Yeah,
last recycled there's only been one coach. Malthouse.
Yep, there's only been one coach that I think we worked out in about 30 or 40 years. It's left a club after having success at that club and gone to another club and had success there. And
he was a bit unique in that he went from one club directly to another. He wasn't sacked. He wasn't.
Yeah,
he didn't have
walked
time
out and went straight into Collingwood. Collingwood probably offered him a lot of money.
And that's why part of the reason I'm so happy with Truck is because he's fresh, you know.
Yep. He was young. He surely knew their voice. He had a similar age. You know, he wasn't that much older than some of the players. But
shit show.
Anyway,
this football club will keep.
Let's wrap it up.
The word is keep frustrating the fuck out of us. Keep annoying us until we inevitably win a flag. I'll be on my deathbed, but
right, you go with your poos and wees. He's been sick, people. He's had the runnings both ways, out the fronts and the backs. Apparently, he's had to throw out a couple of pairs of undies.
Enough, for God's sake. On that
shocking, slippery news.
Bombshell. Let us know what you think. Still get in the comments. I'm probably going to cut that bit out, but I can't be bothered actually editing, so I probably won't. Yeah, let us know what you think. Let us know what you think will happen. Get in before it does happen. And say it through gritted teeth just about every week, go Dons.
Yeah, just Clarkson or Truck. I'd love to have like a voting thing. Yeah, go Bombers. Let's just try not to eat ourselves over the next week or two.
It's nearly the off season.
Yeah, just pick 5. Woohoo, it's ours.
I muted you before that. It's good.